All right, y'all, you're Locked On Falcons. I'm your host, Aaron Freeman, and today I am joined once again by Jarvis Davis of the ATL Day Ones podcast. And today we're talking all about the keys to victory and if the Falcons can rise up for the second week in a row when they take on the LA Rams in week 2.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, guys, you know me. I'm Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Sirius Black, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. your very humble podcast host here of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And today's episode of Locked On Falcons is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And guys, we want to thank you for making Locked On Falcons your first listen each and every day. Of course, Locked On Falcons is free and available on a variety of podcast platforms, including Apple, Odyssey, Google, Spotify, and of course on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Falcons YouTube channel, and you will get the video version of the podcast the night before the audio drops. So today I am once again joined by Jarvis Davis. You know him, you love him. One of the co-hosts, along with Tanisha Batista, on the ATL Day Ones podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family on the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast feed on YouTube, Apple, Odyssey, all those same places. And of course, Jarvis, like he will probably be doing every week, will be coming on here to give us some keys to victory, talk a little bit about whether or not the Falcons can rise up, as it were, to exceed expectations going into week 2, as well as get some thoughts on Drake London's debut, as well as maybe some other young players that we're looking forward to see what they can do against this Rams team. But without further ado, Jarvis, welcome back to Locked On Falcons.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be back because, I want to bring some good juju to this show because I saw that you had Mark Zeno on. So, hey, man, I'm trying to clean some stuff up here, man. Like, you know how Mark gets, man. He likes himself. He likes hearing himself talk. So, I'm trying to bring some good juju here, man. There we go.
Well, yeah, as you guys know, Jarvis will be on with me in the Locked On Falcons postcast, which you can find, of course, on the Locked On Sports Atlanta YouTube platform when we do the live postcast minutes after the final whistle on Sunday against the Rams. And we'll probably be revisiting some of the topics that we're about to discuss on today's episode, talking about the keys to victory. Jarvis, for you, what do you see as one or many of the keys to victory for the Falcons this weekend?
Well, I think I have to snag a little bit from last week, right? A little bit of rinse and repeat, as far as being able to run the football and be able to, stop the run and stop the run, right? Let's just start there. I think that's the main thing that teams want to do. I know that's what Arthur Smith wants to do as far as being able to establish something on offense and establish an identity. I think that they have to be able to run the football. And I really like, after going back and watching the film and looking at some of the game this morning, I think that I feel a little bit different about this game because I thought that Elijah Wilkinson was a guy that played really well. It looks like he kind of wore down towards the end of the game when things got tight. But I think that them being able to run the football puts the opposing defense, the Los Angeles Rams, it puts them in a predicament because guys like Aaron Donald, they want to rush the passer. They can care less about the run. I know they say they want to be able to do that, and Aaron Donald is a great run stopper, but that dude wants to be able to get to the quarterback. He just looks different when he's touching the quarterback. So I think that if they can keep Aaron Donald out of as many pass rush situations as possible, I think Arthur Smith is definitely going to be okay with that.
Yeah, and I know in past years when the Falcons defense wasn't the best, I would often say, the best defense for the Falcons is a good offense, right? Because with the opposing teams wanting to run the football, and now the Falcons are in that sort of situation where they want to run the football, if you're the opposing team and you can get off to a fast start, you can basically force a team to abandon the run. And so I think for the Falcons, they need to get off to a fast start on the road. They need to keep this a game against the Rams. They do not want to fall into, a 14-0 hole or anything like that, because then you're going to have guys like Aaron Donald being able to pin their ears back against the quarterback. And as good as Elijah Wilkinson played, as good as Chris Lindstrom has been, that Aaron Donald guy, he's on a different level.
That's a different realm of talent, my friend.
Yes.
That's a whole new world right there.
Yeah, so I do think the Falcons, as you say, Jarvis, they do need to run the ball. They do need to get off to a good start. Their defense needs to play well and not let this Rams team be able to get off to a fast start for their offense and be able to put up points and force the Falcons to abandon the run. Very few teams over the years have had success running the ball against the Rams. They've been one of the better run defenses in the league for the last several years. But one of the things I wrote about in an article that dropped on Thursday on the Falcoholic was that there have been a handful of teams that have had success running against the Rams. The 49ers are one. The Packers did it in that playoff game a couple of years ago. And you also have the Arizona Cardinals and the Baltimore Ravens. And the thing that's unique about those teams is the 49ers and the Packers run an outside zone blocking scheme like the Falcons do, that Shanahan, Matt LaFleur system that Arthur Smith has here in Atlanta. And, the Cardinals and the Ravens, although Lamar Jackson wasn't in that game, Tyler Huntley is a mobile quarterback, and Kyler Murray, of course, is a mobile quarterback. So the Falcons may have the unique combination with a mobile quarterback like Marcus Mariota, as well as the outside zone running scheme, to be effective running the football against this 49ers team this weekend. I think that's going to be, if they can, have a repeat, obviously, getting 200 yards rushing against the Ram teams will be tough. But if they can get to like 140, 150 type of running yards, I think that will be a really good, benchmark for this football team moving forward. And it would certainly give them a chance to win this game in the end.
I think the benefits, though, of running that outside zone scheme is, like, you don't necessarily have to get this dude off the football, blah, blah, blah. All you have to do is just get to a space. And if that guy is filling your space, that's who you have. You know what I'm saying? You just kind of make sure you just kind of move. And then in the back, there's not necessarily a designated hole that they have to get to. They're just trying to get outside. So, I think that when defensive linemen don't get up fields, and I think that, that's what you saw with the Falcons was so successful with against the Saints, who is a very good rush defense as well, is that those guys weren't getting off blocks, and they were kind of just trying to play, kind of look and see, trying to see what's going on. And when defensive linemen start doing that against that, that's when you get in trouble. And I think that's why I think that that's an advantage for the Atlanta Falcons, because ain't nobody moving Aaron Donald off the ball like that. You know what I mean? So I think that, that's why I believe that they probably will. I'm not going to say they are. At times, I think they're going to be able to take advantage of, being able to run in that type scheme, and also having that mobile quarterback, like you mentioned. That's another thing that defense has to think about, right? Like the Saints haven't played well against mobile quarterbacks, and you saw the Falcons take advantage of that. So I think that it's a double whammy, right? The outside zone scheme, has worked against the Rams, and you got that mobile quarterback piece that defense coordinators have to take into account on each and every down. And I think that Arthur Smith is definitely going to try to take advantage of that.
Yep, absolutely. So those sort of the main focus of the key to victory. And so we'll continue today's episode talking about whether or not the Falcons can exceed expectations as they did in week one, where, almost nobody gave them a chance to beat that Saints team. And very few people are giving them a chance to beat this Rams team. And we'll get Jarvis's thoughts on ways that they can sort of rise up, as it were, in week two. And we'll get into that coming up. But before we get there, guys, I do want to tell you about the world's largest car sharing marketplace. It's Turo. With Turo, you can book any car you want, whenever you want, wherever you want, from a community of local hosts. You can browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, Canada, and the UK. If you want to book a spacious SUV or minivan for that upcoming family road trip, you can do that. You can get a classic luxury car or for that special event or birthday or an upcoming holiday. You can find affordable economy cars that if you just want to get from A to B, you can do that as well. And, if you're looking to test out that new electric vehicle to see how it fits into your daily life, you can do that as well. So many Turo hosts can deliver the car right to you every trip, is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions do apply. All you got to do is ditch the boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. That's Turo.com. So we're continuing today's Locked On Falcons here with Jarvis Davis of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And we thank you guys for making Locked On Falcons your first listen. Always check out Locked On Sports Atlanta as your second listen. And make sure you subscribe to Locked On Falcons here on YouTube as well as Locked On Sports Atlanta. Trying to get Locked On Falcons above 3,000 subscribers. We're inching along. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you do so and give us a 5-star rating on your preferred podcast platform. But jumping into this conversation, Jarvis, we saw the Falcons outplay everybody's expectations in week 1. Do you think they can do it again in week 2?
I think so. Like the thing we just talked about, the keys to the game, right? If they're able to do some of those things that we talked about, and add to that, right? If they can get Matthew Stafford to be Matthew Stafford, I know a lot of people, there were conversations about him being a Hall of Famer and all that stuff. And after they won the Super Bowl, and I ain't there. I'm not there yet. So
they have that conversation every year after whoever wins the Super Bowl, and it's just like, why do we do this every year? Why do we
didn't talk about it at all leading up to that? So if we didn't talk about him being a Hall of Famer leading up to it, and we only talk about it after he won it, probably not a Hall of Famer. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think that, with Matthew Stafford having the capabilities of turning the ball over, we know he can get rattled because we've seen it before. Even Jameis Winston, there was some throws that he made that probably should have been picks, and the Falcons just didn't take advantage of that. But this week, in order to beat good teams or and the Super Bowl defending champions specifically, you have to take advantage of those moments, right? So, AJ Terrell, dropped the pick. And I think that, if every opportunity that you have a sack, Matthew Stafford, you're going to have to take advantage of that. Adi Ogundeji, lost contain, and then Grady Jarrett had an amazing move. If Adi Ogundeji had kept the containment on that particular play, Jameis Winston would have went down for another sack. So you never know the difference in the game. It's just little things like that the Falcons going to have to take advantage of when you are less talented than your opponent. You have to take advantage of those little moments, and I think that they can do that because they can't force them. We saw that last week. They can't force those moments, force those guys to make bad throws or sack the quarterback or get those guys in situations where they may have to make a decision, here or there. So I think that if they can continue to do that, I believe that they can exceed expectations for sure this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is where the any given Sunday mantra comes from, right? Where
indeed
you know what you got to do. The boxes you got to check. It's just whether or not you actually go out there and do them on Sunday. And as I was talking with Travis Rogers, the host of Locked On Rams, on yesterday's crossover, this Rams team looks a lot more vulnerable today than anybody probably thought they would be 10 days ago or certainly months ago. And so I do think the Falcons, this is a much more, I think everybody, when the schedule came out, was like, oh yeah, this is a loss. It's about the other games that they're going to win. And I think this week does give them an opportunity to prove people wrong and show people like myself. I had a comment on a video earlier this week about, you Aaron, you've always been doubting the Falcons, and like, yeah, I have been, and I'm doubting them again this week. And so
this week called precedent. They set, not Aaron. They've set that precedence. So Aaron is just following the precedent, and that's okay. It's okay to follow along in life.
Absolutely. So yeah, like this week, I think gives, like my expectations are, I think they'll probably, after playing so well last week for at least the first 3 quarters, I think they'll come back down to earth a little bit, but they can absolutely prove me wrong and have me and you talking about, hey, wasn't it great how they were able to do X, Y, and Z on Sunday when we're getting into that postcast. So I think the opportunity is there, and all of a sudden, if they can do it this week, then absolutely, I think moving forward, there will be very little doubt, at least on my end, moving forward for what this football team can accomplish this season. So I'm very eager to see, which Falcon team shows up. I'm eager to see which Rams team shows up, because that was one of the things that Travis was talking about on yesterday's crossover, which is, people are starting to wonder, like, Are the Rams just good and had a bad game against the Bills, or are the Rams not as good as people thought they were going to be? And we're probably going to find out Sunday, because if they're not, then I do think the Falcons will have a golden opportunity to expose that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that, that next level stuff, right? Like what we want to see, from people who cover this team and obviously fans of the team, you want to see some consistency, right? Like you said, 3 quarters, right? We saw 3 quarters of really good football, sprinkled in with some mistakes in there. Had a fumble in there and all that good stuff. Yeah, OZ had a fumble as well. So all those things were still with some bad stuff sprinkled in there, but they look like a good enough team to be able to make up for those that, because the defense came right out after both turnovers. The defense came out and stopped that team after those turnovers, and we're not used to seeing that. So I think that once you get a taste of something, Arthur Smith, listen up. Like we talked about it on our show this week. You can't be getting mad at us now. Like once you give the city of Atlanta a taste of goodness and maybe even great, like you can't play around. You got to keep on coming with it, man. Like, and that's the thing that I want to see from the Falcons this week. Outside of all prognostications and what they can do and keys to victory, man, I want to see this team be consistent. Show me who you are. Are you the team that in the first 3 quarters? Or are you the team that was in the fourth quarter? And that team that was in the fourth quarter, that was last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. So I think just consistency is key for me, as far as what I'm looking for from the Falcons, man, because like that was almost unreal. Those first 3 quarters, we talked about it right after the game on the Falcons postcast. I was just like, man, what happened? Because that's what we like. We like that. We don't want to see that anymore. So, but yeah, man, it's something to see. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to this game. I know I'm gonna say that every week, but I'm really looking forward to this game because, I want to see what the adjustments are, what Arthur Smith is gonna do now that he knows what he's gonna get from that left guard position, because that's miles ahead of what we saw last year. That was so. Drew Dahlman was even out there finishing blocks and putting guys on their back. I was like, what is this foolishness? Like, I didn't expect that from Drew. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to keep it real. But I think that, there are a lot of, like I said, a lot of good things out there. But I think this is something that, all right, hey, we need y'all to do that again.
Absolutely. You hear it from Arthur Smith in his press conferences. Like, he clearly has a chip on his shoulder about what people have been saying about this team, and if the team plays like that, then we will see more of that throughout the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. You mentioned a taste of greatness, Jarvis, and maybe we got a little taste of greatness from Drake London. We'll get into a listener question, getting our thoughts on Drake London's performance.
Drake, yes.
So we'll get into Drake London coming up on today's episode. I haven't been able to use that clip as much as I want to. Every day I'm like, oh, I can use it here, and I always forget about it in the middle of the show. But let's talk about BetOnline, the #1 source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. From the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, podcasts, including this weekend's games. Of course, this weekend's game features the Falcons and the Rams, and the line has moved a couple of times this week. It was 10.5 yesterday. It's back to 10, with the Falcons being underdogs, and whether or not they can cover. If you feel good about that, of course, BetOnline is your best source for the wagering information, the live in-game betting, esports, scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check on your favorite sports and events, whether it be NFL, MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, college football, so much more. Head to the website today at betonline.net. Use your mobile device to sign up to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Dude, you took me out, man. That Drake drop, oh my God, that is hilarious. So funny. Sorry, I'm all stepping all over your stuff, man. My bad, man.
Speaking of Drake, we got a listener question from L. Mosley. He submitted this on the new Falcons or Locked On Falcons Discord, which if you want to join, you can join on the link in the description below. But he has 2 questions. His first one is, what are your thoughts on Drake London after his first full game? I thought he looked like a future wide receiver one? Also, I know he didn't play, but do you think D'Angelo Malone will get any playing time this year? I thought he looked really good in the preseason. So, Jarvis, what were your thoughts on Drake London as well as, D'Angelo Malone's role for the team this year?
You know what? I was actually pleasantly surprised because, when you think about now, I did think that let me back up. I did believe that the Falcons were being safe with him when it comes to practicing and all that stuff and being out there and playing in any other games outside of the Detroit Lions preseason game. But I did not expect him to be a factor. Like, I'm not saying that he was out there just balling and killing everybody, Marshawn Lattimore all over there, but there was some good moments. He had some good moments, right? He had a big third down catch. Ran a little whip route on Marshawn Lattimore, and got the first down. So those are some of the things I was just like, okay, that's what you like to see in a top 10 draft pick, when people are up here clamoring for you to get somebody to touch the quarterback or protect the quarterback.
I don't know who those people are, Jarvis.
Like, who are those people? You know what I mean?
Who said those things?
Like, I'm one of them, and Aaron was one of them too. So I don't give a damn. Y'all can say what y'all want to say. I'm gonna feel how I feel, but I think that it was good to see Drake London go out there and do his thing. And like, he had 7 targets with 5 catches, 74 yards. That's a nice average. You know what I mean? That's what you want. That's what you want your wide receiver one, like the listener called him. Like, that's what you want to see from that guy. So, and I'm almost kind of interested to see how the Rams play it, right? Okay, Drake London. Okay, we know he can be a factor. Are they gonna put Jalen Ramsey on Drake London, or do they have Jalen Ramsey following Kyle Pitts? Or how is that gonna work? That's gonna be very hard because Arthur Smith runs like 12 personnel, like every down. He absolutely loves 12 personnel. I love it too, because you can just have so much fun with how you line those guys up, especially with a guy like Kyle Pitts. So I'm interested to see how the Rams play the Falcons now that they know that, hey, Drake London has something. He had a little something he can bring to the table as well.
Yeah. Again, as one of the people that was questioning that draft selection, it wasn't because I questioned the player, but certainly,
Right.
Given the injuries that he was dealing with, given the fact that Marshawn Lattimore throughout his career has specialized in being that physical corner that can take out the big receivers.
Oh yeah.
It's the smaller, quicker, faster guys that tend to give him trouble. I was very impressed with what Drake London was able to do in this game, and I feel like there were a number of opportunities where he had a chance to get more big plays had Mariota sort of seen him where he was open on a couple of big plays. He did have the 130-yard reception that set up the score right before the halftime. And so, I did see a guy that looked like a future number one wide receiver, because my big question for Drake London was, despite his size, his physicality, how would he deal with some of these corners in the NFL that are a lot more physical than the guys that he was facing in the Pac-12, like Marshawn Lattimore, like J.C. Horn, like Carlton Davis, guys that he's going to see pretty consistently in division. And we'll obviously see how he fares against those guys. But as far as, checking that box against the Saints and Lattimore, I think he really did an outstanding job there. On D'Angelo Malone, I don't expect D'Angelo Malone to get a ton of playing time, but I do think probably in the future you'll kind of see him and Quentin Bell kind of swapping out. I think the Falcons went with Bell this week because he just brings a little bit more on special teams than what Malone does. But probably as the season progresses, you'll see them get Malone in the mix, and he's probably not going to have a ton of snaps. I think Bell played 10 snaps in this game, but like 10, 15 snaps, a couple of opportunities to rush the quarterback. I do expect that from D'Angelo Malone the rest of the way. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm right there. I'm right along with you, because there is some development there for D'Angelo Malone, and Coach Smith even has said that during the preseason when he was playing games, and that's not that doesn't necessarily mean that, oh my God, he's going to be a bust. No, the guy, when you talk about the guy having the tools and the skill set already, the skill set and the tools are definitely there. It's just a matter of being developed, because guys develop at different times. As much as we want to say, hey, 3rd round pick, that mother blanket better be a starter, and we saw, and what did we say last year, right? Richard Grant, 2nd round pick. Why he ain't no starter? That dude is a bust. But guess what? He came out there and he did his thing out there on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. So It's just about the development, the process. And I'm not saying D'Angelo Malone is going to take a whole year to develop and come back next year and ball. That may happen this year but I think that the coaching staff understands what the deal is. Quentin Bell is a really good special teams player. He takes it seriously, and I think that D'Angelo Malone might have to. That's how he's gonna have to work his way in, because he's gonna have to take it a little bit more seriously. Not saying that he's been taking it as a joke. I ain't trying to play special teams. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that you have to, in order for you to be on that special teams, you gotta want to be there. And if you don't want to be there, you're not going to dress. So I think, there'll probably be a swap, like you said, between he and Quentin Bell as to who's going to be that guy. And that's the way D'Angelo Malone is going to have to work his way on the field.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Malone has that mentality. He's a high motor guy, so I don't think it will be an issue for him, but obviously, Bell's just a little bit ahead of him. We saw that in the preseason at this point in time, and whether he's going to still be ahead of him by the time we get to October, November, December, we'll just sort of have to see. So I wouldn't be too worried about D'Angelo Malone moving forward, but we'll just sort of see how he develops. We'll talk a little bit wrapping up today's episode about some other young players that we're looking forward to. I know for me, Tyler Allgeier, I think, is a player that may be making his debut this week, given the injury to Damian Williams. Looks like he might not be healthy for this week 2 game. And we're talking about the running game. The Falcons gave Cordero Patterson 22 carries last week. I don't think they can have a repeat of that if they want to keep Patterson fresh the season. So I expect, Allgeier to be a big part of their game plan this week. And I'm curious to see if we're singing his praises on next week's episodes, talking about, what a great debut that Tyler Allgeier had, similar to what we just said about Drake London. Jarvis, is there another young player? Doesn't have to be a rookie or anything like that, but there's another young guy that you're looking forward to seeing if they can step up this weekend?
It is a guy that I've talked about on this show, and I called out on this show and on my on ATL Day Ones as well. It has to be Arnold Ebiketie, man. I want to see more. Like a dude, they put out a stat. They said as far as the first Falcons rookie to get a sack in his first game in his debut, like the dude, I never even heard of the dude. I can't even recall his name, but it was a very long time ago. So for Arnold Ebiketie to come out and get a sack in his debut against the New Orleans Saints, the NFC South rival, man, yeah, I want to see more. I want to see that young fella because, hey, I talked about Adiel Gandeji, letting that contain, preventing Grady Jarrett from getting another sack. And like you said, you don't know what sacks do when it comes to momentum and how they can change a game. And you can't have it not happen because you didn't do your job. And I think that, if Arnold Ebiketie can continue to play and supplant Adiel Gandeji at the other outside linebacker spot, man, so be it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he has in store for the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, I think all those outside linebackers will have a great opportunity this weekend, given the question marks on the Rams offensive line. Their starting left tackle, Joe Noteboom, was basically gave up 8 pressures last week. Von Miller cooked them last week, and I think he's hurt. I don't know if what his status is as of today, but he's a little beat up, and so there's an opportunity for Arnold Ebiketie, Lorenzo Carter, Adiel Gandeji, all those guys to sort of feast at the quarterback, as well as Grady Jarrett and Taquan Graham. So if this pass rush is for real after the 4-sack performance, yeah, if they can't get to the quarterback this week.
Let's go this week, because you're talking about, I think it's going to be 3 new starters on that offensive line. So, yeah, if this pass rush is real, that's a question I know we'll have answered on that postcast. If it's real, they'll take advantage. And I'm not saying they have to get 4 sacks to make it real. But if they can get 2, maybe 1.5 on a forced fumble, we'll know that, hey, man, this Falcons defense is doing what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. So we will see what is in store for that. Of course, Jarvis and I, as I said earlier, will be back on Sunday evening for the postcast right after that 4 o'clock kickoff for the Rams to get our thoughts on whatever the Falcons do in week 2, good, bad, ugly, all the things in between. And of course, you can subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta on YouTube to see that live. Make sure you hit that bell so that you know when we go live there. And of course, Locked On Sports Atlanta is the place for Jarvis and Tanitra on ATL Day Ones, Mark Zeno on A to Z, and of course, John Chuckery on Hitting Hard as well, covering not only the Falcons, but the Braves, the Bulldogs. I'm sure we got some Hawks content coming our way in the coming weeks, as well as other big stories around the nation there. And it's all on one podcast feed that you can find on all the same podcast platforms you're checking out Locked On Falcons. And I gotta say, check out the Locked On Braves postcast as well, and the Locked On Sports Atlanta. Those guys are doing a great job, as this Braves team looks like they're making their push to repeat as the world champions again. So we'll see if they can keep this momentum going down the stretch as we get closer to the new playoff format. I still haven't wrapped my head around what's going on with that, but Locked On Braves will definitely have you covered on that more so than Locked On Falcons. You don't come to Locked On Falcons for Braves content. So check out Jarvis and the rest of those guys over at Locked On Sports Atlanta. And you also, while you're at, check out the Peacock and Williamson podcast, where Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson got you guys covered on all 32 NFL teams. I'm sure they're making their picks today for this weekend's matchups on Peacock and Williamson, again, free and available on all the same podcast platforms that you are currently checking out Locked On Falcons. For Jarvis Davis, myself, that's going to do it for us here. We look forward to seeing what you guys think of this Falcons team Sunday evening after this Rams game. Go Falcons.